if you are embarking on a journey to becoming a CASA, then this video is for you. Today, as you can see, I'm not alone. I have a very important guest. My very first guest. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here, Nana. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so yes, if you can actually go to my very first video, I did mention that I'm gonna have guests here and there, people who can inspire us. And what a way to start! Today we'll be talking about everything on how to become a CA, the journey.
Yes.
So, do you want to tell us how it started between us, actually?
Oh, between us as friends,
Yeah.
friends. Okay. So we met in 2010. So it's actually been 15 years now.
What?
Each other. Yeah, it's been quite a long time. And I was the new girl in high school, and I really didn't like Michelle.
Oh no!
But we got along eventually. And we've been friends ever since.
Why didn't you like me?
She was the cool girl in
Oh,
high school,
no.
and I wasn't. So
She's
our
lying, by the
personalities
way.
were not in sync. But yeah, 15 years later, and we are literally the closest of friends.
Yes,
Yeah.
and talking about high school, for me, after grade 10, I think we started applying in grade 11.
11.
So I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do after varsity. And I do believe it's a struggle for a lot of people out there, because sometimes you end up just applying for what you qualify for or going to the varsity that can accept you.
Yeah.
So for me, okay, I liked economics. So I remember when I saw I did apply for a BCom in economics, but it was full.
Okay.
Then my second option, like I wanted everything that has economics. So my second option, I saw transport economics. And to be honest, I had no idea what that was about. So for you, like how did you know you wanted to become a CA?
I actually did not want to become a CA.
Really?
No, I wanted to study law because I did debating in high school. So I was really passionate about speaking and arguing in a healthy way. So I thought I'd end up being a lawyer or it's just something to do with a lot of talking. So I did apply for an LLB, and unfortunately I didn't get accepted for that. And I got an SMS from UJ saying I got accepted for BCom accounting.
Really?
I did not even apply for it. So I'm totally in a different field altogether. I never ever dreamt of being a CA.
And
but
look
I love
at
it
you
here.
today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, after being accepted and finishing your matric, we then went to UJ together.
Yes.
So during the first year, like was it what you expected?
So because I did accounting in high school,
Oh.
I did accounting in high school, so it wasn't really a shock. Your debits, your credits. More first year was more revision.
Okay.
In terms of accounting, and obviously just being introduced to new subjects like business management, stats, and some other new modules, but it wasn't difficult. First year wasn't difficult at all. Yeah, except stats. Stats was for us quite a challenging module, but we made it.
Yeah, we did. Actually, my journey with stats, I remember, I think I didn't do well in our first semester.
Yes, you didn't make it.
Why are you telling me?
No, failure is beautiful. It teaches us a lot.
So, was it during our second semester or the next year when I asked you to check my marks?
Oh, we both didn't make it actually.
Oh, yes.
So in my first year, we didn't make it for stats. So
Analytical techniques.
Yes, analytical techniques. So we repeated in our second year, right? And I remember when we received our final marks for the first semester, we were on the phone, right? And I told her that I made it. I don't know about you. and she wasn't ready to check. So shame. I took my laptop and I checked for her, and we both made it. It was a beautiful moment.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So yes, with that, okay, it was only analytical techniques that was a hassle.
Yes, for me.
Yes, and then you made it to what do we call it? The second year. Oh,
Yes.
it's been years. Eh?
It's been too long.
Yeah. Okay, your second year. How was it?
So before I touch on that, I just want to elaborate. I didn't go through the traditional CASA route. So at UJ specifically, there's two streams of accounting. So there is BAC, which is the more CA route, and then there's a BCom, which I did, right? So I did a BCom, which meant that it would take me longer to actually qualify as a CASA, maybe 1 year longer, because you do your traditional degree, which is 3 years, and you do a bridging course into the CA course, which is an extra year. And then only after that you can do your CTA, which is your honors year, which is just before you do articles in the CA stream. So second year BCom accounting was a bit of a challenge for me, because that was when the introduction of tax as a module came in. Tax, it was a new thing. I wasn't really familiar with the principles and the rules and how to study it. But it's a journey, you know, you get to learn. I enjoyed second year, but it was a bit of a challenge with the introduction of new modules as well. So second year, good. My whole undergrad was okay. It was okay, but it has its challenges, but it wasn't really too challenging that I failed. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Actually, for someone out there who would like to know, like, what's the difference, or why did you not go the traditional route? Is there like a reason why?
So my journey, I started off not being intentional with becoming a CA, and I don't want to sell a story that, oh, I always dreamt of becoming a CA. It was always a childhood dream. For me, really, it really just happened. Honestly, it really just happened. So when I got into my third year, I fell in love with tax. Remember, I told you that tax was so difficult for me. So I spent so much time actually studying it and trying to understand it. So I fell in love with it. So I wanted to do an honors in tax because I loved it so much. So I applied and I got rejected.
At UJ?
My heart was so broken. So I got rejected. I applied for an honors in accounting, in auditing, in all our majors, and I got rejected for all of them. Right? And the only thing I got accepted for was the bridging course I told you about earlier, to bridge into the CASA stream, right? So I was like, okay, I don't want to really go into the job market with just a degree. I just want to further my studies. So I registered with UJ to do the bridging course into CA. The day I registered was the day before the closing date of the registration, right? So I register, I go back to Res, and then I get SMSs or emails, I can't remember, that I've been accepted for all the
other ones that you applied for. Wow.
I was so excited. So can you imagine, I ran to campus and I was like, I want to deregister and actually do a postgrad in tax, right? So they're like, no, you can't, it's too late, because registration closes tomorrow, and to deregister it takes about a day or so. So you can't. If you want to do it, you can always do it next year. That was not an option. So because it was already too late, so I ended up just doing the bridging course into the CASA stream.
Okay, and this was after how many years, by the way?
3 years. This was after my degree.
Okay, this was the 4th year in varsity.
Yes.
Okay, and then how did that go?
That's when I actually failed for the first time in my varsity experience, like varsity years. failed a year because I actually had to repeat BCTA. That's what they call it in UJ.
Okay.
That was my first failure. So not first failure in university, but first failure in terms of having to redo the whole year.
And you were somebody who was like always studying. You didn't go out.
Never. She's the one that always goes out.
So like I think it's very important for somebody out there to know that like you gave it your all. If you can actually look back, why do you think you didn't make it? I remember we used to like there was this guy at UJ who used to like live in the library literally, and he didn't make it.
I think it's the nature of just the whole CASA stream and course, because remember I told you that I did my BCom in my first 3 years degree, and not to undermine the degree or anything, but there is quite a big difference. So the transition from just your BCom to having to bridge into the CASA stream is huge, right? So it's not enough to keep studying and putting in the hours. You need to reflect. You need to be intentional about actually understanding the work, because I feel for me that's when my journey really started, when I went into that bridging course. Because there are 4 majors: your tax, your auditing, your finance, and accounting. So they all work together. So you can't excel in one and the other is slacking. So you need to balance all of them, and they all equally need to be given the not the same level of attention, but you need to understand them equally and do well, or at least pass all of them.
And was it with the bridging course? I remember when you guys used to write exams, like it was an open book.
Yeah. Yeah, and people always ask like, why do you fail if you go in with your textbook? So that's where I actually didn't answer your previous question. I was always studying, but I wasn't understanding the core of what I was studying. You know, I was just studying to pass a test, and that's not how your approach should be. You must really understand what you're doing. And yeah, so to go back to your open book,
so basically it's application.
Absolutely, application and applying yourself, because you have to. Life is not theory. Life is happening. It's practical. So you have to be practical in all of them, in your finance, in your accounting, in your tax. So you have to be able to apply the principles that are in those books. So that's just theory. You go in with theory and you have to apply that theory. Yeah. So it's not as easy. It's not an open book test. It is an application to real life scenario test. Yeah.
So if looking back, which module would you say like you struggled the most with?
I think for me was accounting itself. I really struggled with accounting, and to this day I struggled with it till my last day of board exams, because I don't know what was the thing with accounting, and just because it was challenging didn't mean I had to give up my whole career. I just knew how to get around it. You know, I just knew that I had to start with it in terms of studying when I still had the energy, when I still had that, you know, motivation to study. Yeah, so I think accounting was the one that was very challenging for me.
Now, this is important, especially because like if you haven't studied yet, or if you're still a graduate. No, if you haven't studied yet, you're thinking that if you give it your all, you'll make it, all these things. So it's important for people to realize that sometimes life doesn't go as you have planned for it to go. And I remember when you were repeating the year, after your exams, you were like, actually, at this point, I leave it to God.
Yeah.
Because you still didn't think you were gonna make it. And this is just to emphasize how not easy the course is, right?
Yeah. Because sometimes you would feel like, okay, I nailed it, you know, and you find that you didn't. And and sometimes, regardless of what you believe in,
Yeah.
like, I just had to give it to a higher power. For me, that is God. To say that I did my all. I tried. And the game changer for me throughout my whole journey is reflection. So it's so important to reflect. Why didn't things work out? Are you putting in the work but not putting in quality work? Are you because for instance, one of my exams, which I failed and I thought I did well, when I went back to reflect, I'm like, but I'm not answering the question. So yes, I'm beating about the bush, but I'm really not answering the question, and I don't have a strategy to answer questions. So I needed to work on that, not increase my hours of studying. I needed to better my exam technique, my time management also as well. So a lot of things go into this, and for me, to go back to your question, you see how I always make sure I answer questions.
Yes.
It's the training. It's the training. At the end of it, have you answered the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So to go back to your question, I had to give it to a higher power, because at that point I felt like I was trying absolutely everything, and I gave it my all. So yeah.
Okay, so take me through the day where you checked your marks and you made it.
So the day I checked my marks. So let me actually backtrack a
Yes.
bit. I remember we ended off at my bridging course that I had to repeat. I repeated that, and then
You
I
repeated
went.
the bridging course.
Yes, that I did.
Oh,
I did.
okay.
Yeah, so I repeated the bridging course, but I passed the second attempt.
Okay.
So then I went on to do the honors. Oh my word, I failed so much. I couldn't even go back to UJ. So at UJ, you have to actually qualify to repeat honors. I didn't qualify to repeat my honors. I mean, it's funny now, but it was so sore when it happened. My heart was so broke.
Yeah, I actually also, like, I didn't know what to say to you anymore. I didn't. And okay, one thing stands out for me as well. Like, you're very resilient. You actually, because for me, I feel like you are my one friend who always like knew what she wanted. Like, you were so serious about life.
I think for me it was important to finish what I started, because at some point I wanted to give up. I really wanted to give up, but I started this. And remember, even going back, I didn't want to be here. Like, I asked God, why am I going through this? I didn't even want this journey to begin with, But I think I knew I could do it. So I knew that giving up was not an option at all. Maybe I could take a break, which I decided not to, but I feel like I really had to see this through.
Okay, that's good. And then you didn't qualify. Then what happened?
Yeah, so I didn't qualify to do my honors again at UJ. So I had to apply to UNISA. And there was such a negative connotation around studying at UNISA. And let me just encourage people that study at UNISA. UNISA is an actual institution, like it's a university, and people that go to your full-time universities maybe do look down on UNISA, but honestly I think it gave me a chance to qualify as a CA. So I actually passed. So to go back to your question, when I opened my marks and I found that I passed, it's such an emotional memory for me, because I didn't pass my final exams. I only got supplementaries for my 3 modules at UNISA. Yes. So I got supplementaries and I wrote all 3 of them. And I remember looking at those marks, or even before I opened them, I prayed and I'm like, God, whatever the result is, please help me to accept. Whether or not I passed, just help me accept. And I didn't mind repeating. I didn't mind going back to the drawing board, but I just wanted to acceptance, you know.
Mm.
And I found that I passed. And seeing all those, you know, results say pass, pass, pass.
Mm.
My mom at the time was in hospital, and I was so happy because at least one thing was going okay. Because yeah, my pillar of strength at the time was in hospital. She wasn't doing really well, so I couldn't imagine having to repeat an honors year again.
Yeah, and were you a full-time student?
No, no, I wasn't a full-time student in UJ. So when things didn't go well at UJ,
Mm-hmm.
I applied to go join a firm where I had to start doing my articles while studying. So I didn't do my honors full time with UNISA. It was on a part time, and I had already started my articles. So a lot of people can actually do this. You don't have to do an honors year full time. There are some audit firms out there, especially the smaller ones, that do accommodate people that are actually studying towards their CASA and working as well.
And how did you get that opportunity?
You know, my friend, one of my friends, and that's the power as well of networking and keeping in touch with your peers and what people are doing. So she gave me an email of this other HR lady, and I emailed her even before I got my results, because I just like, okay, I just need to get articles, right? I emailed the lady and I sent her my CV. Forgot about it, really. I think it was somewhere in September, and I only had to start articles in January. So they didn't get back to me. And I remember just not even following up, you know, because I had forgotten that I applied anyway. So that after I failed my honors year at UJ, there was really no plan. And I had to go back to the drawing board to say, okay, do I go back full time, do my honors, or do I try finding articles? I mean, at the time it was very difficult because my mom was paying for me university, very expensive, obviously, and I just wanted to alleviate her of the burden of having to stress. Plus, she was very sick at the time. So January came, there was no plan. The second week of Jan, that lady emailed me back to say that I must come for an interview.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So for someone like myself who didn't study accounting, like, what is articles?
Okay. So articles is a 3-year contract. Some is 4 years. So depending on your contract and the policies that SAICA has, which I'm not really familiar with. So it's a 3-year training contract, which you have to go through certain competencies that you have to achieve as a training accountant. And you also have to work, I think it's 3,600 hours of your training into becoming a CA.
Okay.
Yeah. So those competencies are involved, like, you know, your auditing, tax. Okay, so you have to complete those competencies that SAICA is the governing body of CAs. You have to then work those hours, the 3,600 hours of core hours that you've trained with the firm that you're with. Yeah.
Okay, so you did your articles, you passed your honors.
Yes.
And then that's it, like you're a CA.
No. So you, in your first after you pass your honors, you have to write 2 board exams. Yeah, and the first one is the initial test of competence. When I wrote, I know they changed names now. I'm not sure what the name is now. I think is okay, let me not get into it. I'm not sure. But when I did it, it was called the initial test of competence, which it is a SAICA exam that you have to pass. It's the first one that you do just after your honors. Yeah, and then as you go through your articles, I think that most do it in their second year of articles, then you write your APC. So that is your assessment of professional competence. So that's the second board exam that you have to write. And then when you've done all your competencies, when you've done all your board exams and you finish your training contract, that's when you're eligible to register as a CASA.
So you register and then what? Do you
And
have to get accepted or
No. So you register to be a chartered accountant. So what a chartered accountant is, it's a registered accountant. So you register with a certain board. So in this instance, you'll be registered with SAICA.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if someone is a CA, you can even look them up on the SAICA website if they are truly a registered CA.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes you can be eligible to register as a CA. So that basically means that you've done everything, you're just not registered with SAICA, which is a choice at the time.
Is there like a difference?
Yeah, so when you are a registered CA with SAICA, you have to always keep up with your competencies. So you have to show SAICA that you're keeping abreast with what's happening in your field of work. So whether you're in auditing, you have to show them that, okay, this is what I've done for the year, and they track that. So when you're not registered with them, you don't have to do any of that, or you don't even have to pay membership fees, or but you won't have the privilege of having that CASA attached to your name.
So just for the record, are you a CA?
I'm eligible. I'm an eligible CA, just not registered with SAICA.
Yet. Or you don't want to?
I will register with them.
Okay.
I've passed everything, but I haven't really fully gone through the application of but I'm done with my training contracts and all of the competencies.
Okay, wow. Actually, like, you drew the whole picture of becoming a CA.
But this is just even a tip of the iceberg. There's so many ways to qualify as a CA. You can go through the CIMA route. You can go through, like, even when you've done MathLit, you can actually go through an extended program so there's so many ways to become a CA, and people need to educate themselves with the different ways to register and qualify as one.
Actually, mentioning MathLit, this can help somebody out there. I know I have a friend, she did maths literacy in high school. Then when she went to varsity, and she was just studying BCom accounting, I don't think she wanted to be a CA. But just because she did maths literacy, she couldn't start off and just study BCom accounting, and she had to do like I don't know if it's a bridge program, yes, for 1 year before she could do her first year in BCom accounting. So I think just be careful with maths literacy, right?
And even if you do maths literacy, it shouldn't limit you in terms of this journey, particularly in terms of becoming a CA, because yes, you can actually do maths lit and go to university. It's just going to take you a bit longer. So you might have to do the extended program, and then after that you might have to do the bridging course that I spoke about, that I did twice, and it can take longer, but you really can do it. I always say, if I could do it, look.
Do you know anyone who actually completed their CASA like in record time?
A lot.
Really? Because like everyone I know like has had some challenges.
You know what? Just because it's challenging doesn't mean it cannot be done in record. Even the people that have finished it in record time will tell you it was not easy. They just had that resilience and willpower to just continue. And that's what it does, right? Sometimes it could feel like they just want to break you. And if you break and you don't have the mental strength to go through it, it's more mental. It's like a marathon. So you can't sprint. And you just have to be very strategic with it. And even when you feel like you're breaking, don't give up. So it's more than anything, it's about the mind.
And just the last part of this video, I want you to maybe touch on like some of the things that helped you. I know you knew that you wanted to finish what you started, right? But like the practical ways on how you survived, or how did you take care of your mental health?
Yeah. So for me, I started being obsessed with reading books. I read books because I felt like they allowed me to escape, which is very important because if you don't take time for yourself, the whole journey will consume you. So decide that for yourself. So for me, it was reading books, whether it be fiction or whether it be motivation, whatever at the time I saw fit, and running as well. I was an avid runner. Before class, I knew that I have to wake up before that just to take a run. If I don't do that, I have to do it like later after classes. So just having that time for yourself and like just studying and thinking, oh, I can't wait to finish the book, or I can't wait to just feel the endorphins, of running and yeah. So for me, that's how I kept up with my mental health, and just separating the course from me, because my failures are not me. They're part of my journey, but I tried not to internalize the failure, and I have failed a lot. And if I allowed that to define me, then it was just going to break me. So the journey is not personal. It really isn't personal. The failures shouldn't take them too much to heart, but as a stepping stone and as something to take, that okay, maybe I'm not doing something right. What can I actually do to improve?
Yeah. Okay, and in closing, any advice to anyone on this journey, especially looking at where you are now? Like, in my opinion, you are successful, and I'm very proud of you. So, so I'm thinking, like, somebody would have thought, but I'm failing so much, I'm not gonna make it. And look at you now. Also, please touch on I know there's a lot of graduates who think, oh, I must go to Wits or to Cape Town, like the best universities to like make it, So if you can like give advice to upcoming students or graduates.
Look, I'll touch first on the universities. So there comes a point in your career that no one is going to look where you went to university.
Exactly.
It's not going to matter whether you went to UCT or you went to UNISA. As I alluded earlier, I went to UNISA, and there's no one that criticizes me at work for doing my post-grad at UNISA.
And just to cut you short there, I also went to UNISA. Like, I did my honors with UNISA. Like, after I did my internship, then I started looking for jobs. I actually did my honors while I was working, and that's why I went to UNISA, because I couldn't do it full time. So yeah.
Yeah. So there comes a point where all of that doesn't matter, and you've gotten your degree and you've gotten your education. So to answer your question, so anyone who is just being discouraged because they didn't get into Wits or they didn't get into UCT or these prestigious university, it really doesn't matter. What matters is your will to succeed.
Yes.
No matter where you are, you have to make the most of it, And if there's anyone out there, to answer the first part of your question, if there's anyone out there who wants to give up, it is so worth it at the end when you get to the finish line, and you will thank yourself that you did not give up. I don't believe in quitting. I believe in taking breaks. So if this journey is consuming you, you can take a break but come back if you still want to do it, because also you have to want it to be able to succeed. So take a break. But I always say, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because my journey was never easy. It was not easy, but I came out at the end I didn't even touch on how many times I had to do my board exams, which is another topic for another day, but I had to do it.
Talk about it.
So my first board exam, I failed the first one. I failed the first one. Don't laugh at me.
Sorry.
I failed the first one.
Yeah.
And but I succeeded on my second attempt. And the second board exam, I think I wrote 4 times. I wrote 4 attempts, and I passed on my 4th attempt.
Like, what is board exams? Is it like, do you do it with a university?
Okay. So the first one, you don't have to do it with anything. You just pass your honors, and psych just wants to assess that, okay, you know what you learned in your honors year. So that's why you do it right after you pass your honors year. So maybe if you passed your honors year last year, they would have already written the first board exams, the people that passed last year. And then the second one, which is done 18 months after your articles, your training contract, you have to qualify to write that board exam. And you have to write it, you have to qualify through a board course. So UCT has it. There's one called Enjunamu, and Gauteng UJ has it.
So you apply.
So you apply for that, yes. You apply. And because the second board exam is written in December, you apply for a board course. The board course itself, like the training board course, to be able to write the final board exam in about, I think they start in February or so. So the whole year you are also training to write for that final board exam, but you have to pass this board course first before you actually write the final board course. So yeah, you don't have to apply for the first one, but for the second one, you really have to qualify to write the psychers last board exam.
So you didn't make it on with your first one?
No, I made it. So I qualified to write, but I didn't qualify to write the final psycher exam.
Okay.
So I passed the board course and failed the final exam.
So you then applied to rewrite?
Yes, so the board course itself is valid for 2 years. Right, so you don't have to redo it every year, but it is encouraged that people that have failed to go and do the board course, because it actually does help. It's so helpful. It keeps you with accountability and just how you can improve your exam technique and how to be successful in the exam itself. So it really is helpful. So even if you don't have to go through it again, but just go through it so that you better equip yourself to pass the actual final exam at Psycha has.
Okay, no, thank you, Nana. This was very insightful.
I hope so.
No, it was, and it can help a lot of people. Graduates, it can help people in like matric who like now they know what they're signing up for if they want to be ACA, because like, to be honest, nobody knows. If you are in high school, you don't really know the journey ahead. You just think, oh, this sounds fancy, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So at least then somebody comes in with that willpower and that mindset that I'm gonna make it, and it's possible, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
See you in my next video. Bye.